The phone rang at 3 in the morning, cutting through the silence like a blade. I fumbled for it in the dark, careful not to wake Helena beside me. The caller ID showed Frank Doyle, my old friend from college, now a private investigator who worked nights and drank too much coffee. "Victor, sorry to call so late, but I saw something tonight that's been eating at me." Frank's gravelly voice came through the speaker. "I saw your wife with your son at that new gym downtown. Such a muscular guy she was with. Really built, you know. Figured you'd want to know." My brain stuttered. "Frank, what are you talking about? Ethan is 7 years old." Silence on the other end. Then Frank cleared his throat. "Jesus, Vic. This guy was maybe 30-something. Dark hair, really jacked. They were holding hands in the parking lot." I sat up straighter, my heart hammering against my ribs. Helena stirred beside me, her blonde hair spread across the pillow like she was posing for a magazine. Even in sleep, she looked perfect. The kind of perfect that took work, dedication, and apparently a personal trainer I'd never heard of. "You sure it was Helena?" I whispered, though I already knew the answer. Frank had known my wife for 15 years. He'd been at our wedding, held Ethan when he was born, came to every barbecue we'd thrown. Positive. That blue Honda of hers, license plate and everything. They went into that fancy place on 5th Street, Iron Paradise Fitness. Look, Vic, maybe there's an explanation. Maybe it's just... Thanks for calling, Frank. I hung up before he could finish whatever lie he was going to offer as comfort. I lay back down, staring at the ceiling fan that Helena had insisted we install last summer. She'd said it would help with her hot flashes, but now I wondered if she'd just wanted better air circulation for all the lies she'd been spinning. Helena Lane, 39, manager of Serenity Yoga Studio, mother of my child, and apparently cheating wife. The woman who'd lectured me about honesty when I'd forgotten to mention a work dinner. The woman who'd made me promise to always tell her the truth, no matter how much it might hurt. I thought about the past few months, the late nights she'd started working, the new clothes, athletic wear that cost more than my monthly car payment, the way she'd started checking her phone constantly, smiling at texts she never shared, the sudden interest in advanced training techniques and partner yoga. Partner yoga. Christ. I slipped out of bed and padded to the kitchen where I made coffee in the dark. The house felt different now, like someone had moved all the furniture 2 inches to the left. Everything looked the same, but felt wrong. By the time Helena's alarm went off at 6, I was dressed and ready for work, sitting at the kitchen table with my laptop and a stack of papers that suddenly seemed meaningless. "You're up early," she said, breezing into the kitchen in yoga pants and a sports bra that probably cost more than most people's rent. She kissed the top of my head, a gesture that used to make me smile but now felt like a betrayal. "Couldn't sleep, big presentation today." The lie came easier than I'd expected. She poured herself a smoothie from the blender, some green concoction that smelled like grass and disappointment. "I'll be late tonight. We're doing a special class for beginners, and then I have to meet with a new instructor about partnership opportunities." Partnership opportunities? I almost laughed. "What kind of partnership?" "Oh, you know, cross-training stuff. Yoga and fitness combined. Very trendy right now." She didn't meet my eyes when she said it, focusing instead on her phone as it buzzed with what I was now certain was a text from Mr. Muscular. "Sounds expensive." "Not really. Actually, it might save us money in the long run. Shared resources, that kind of thing." She grabbed her gym bag, a new one I'd never seen before, and headed for the door. "Kiss Ethan goodbye for me when he gets up." And then she was gone, leaving behind the scent of expensive perfume and the bitter taste of deception. I sat there for a long time, listening to the house wake up around me. The coffee maker gurgled, the refrigerator hummed. Upstairs, Ethan's alarm clock played the theme from Star Wars, just like it did every morning. Normal sounds in a life that was apparently anything but normal. When Ethan came downstairs, rubbing sleep from his eyes, I made him pancakes shaped like dinosaurs and helped him with his backpack. He chattered about a field trip coming up, about his friend Marcus, who could do a backflip, about how his mom's new friend Troy was super strong and could probably lift a car. Troy. So that was his name. When did you meet Troy, buddy? Last week when Mom picked me up from school. He was in the car. He's really cool, Dad. He said maybe he could teach me how to do push-ups like a real soldier. I kept my voice level, casual. That sounds fun. Is Troy one of Mom's yoga students? I don't think so. He's too big for yoga. He looks like the Hulk, but with hair. Ethan giggled at his own joke, syrup dripping from his fork. After I dropped Ethan at school, I drove to my office at Midwest Equipment Solutions, where I sold industrial machinery to factories and warehouses. It was steady work, decent money, and mind-numbingly predictable. Today, that predictability felt like a lifeline. I called Frank from my office. You okay, man? He asked without preamble. Define okay. Tell me about last night. Frank sighed. I was tailing a cheating husband for a client. Different case entirely. Saw Helena's car in the gym parking lot around 9 p.m. She was with this guy, tall, dark hair, looked like he bench-pressed small cars for fun. They were affectionate. Affectionate how? Hand-holding, standing close the way she looked at him. Vic, I've seen enough cheating spouses to know the signs. I'm sorry. I thanked him and hung up, then sat staring at my computer screen for what felt like hours. I had a choice to make. I could confront Helena directly, demand the truth, and probably get a bunch of lies wrapped in tears and apologies. Or I could be smart about it. I'd always been the careful type, the guy who read the fine print, who kept receipts, who planned for contingencies. Helena used to tease me about it, called me her adorable pessimist. Now, that careful nature was about to serve me well. I opened a new document on my computer and started typing. Day 1, confirmed affair with Troy at Iron Paradise Fitness. Evidence, eyewitness account, Ethan's statements, new gym bag, changed behavior patterns. Next steps, documentation, financial review, legal consultation. I was going to destroy her world, piece by piece, with the same methodical precision I used to plan sales campaigns. But first, I needed to know exactly what I was dealing with. The next few days were a masterclass in acting normal, while my marriage crumbled around me. I made coffee in the morning, kissed Helena goodbye, took Ethan to school, went to work, came home, helped with homework, and pretended everything was fine. Meanwhile, I was building a case against my wife with the thoroughness of a federal prosecutor. I started with finances. Our joint credit card statements told a story that made my stomach turn. Charges at Iron Paradise Fitness that I'd never authorized. Expensive dinners at restaurants we'd never been to together. A hotel charge from last Tuesday, the same Tuesday Helena had claimed she was working late on inventory. I photographed everything, saved everything, documented everything. Thursday afternoon, I left work early and drove to Iron Paradise Fitness. It was one of those boutique places that catered to people with more money than sense, all glass and chrome and motivational posters about unleashing your inner beast. The kind of place that charged $200 a month for the privilege of sweating next to people who treated fitness like a religion. I parked across the street and waited. At 4:30, Helena's blue Honda pulled into the parking lot. She got out wearing yoga pants that probably cost more than my first car and a sports bra that left little to the imagination. She looked around nervously, a habit I'd never noticed before, then walked toward the entrance. 5 minutes later, a black pickup truck pulled up. Out stepped Troy. Frank hadn't been exaggerating. The guy looked like he'd been carved from granite by someone with a serious appreciation for human anatomy. Tall, broad-shouldered, with the kind of tan that came from a bottle and the kind of muscles that came from steroids and obsession. He wore a tank top that showed off arms bigger than my thighs and a smile that probably worked on every desperate housewife in a 50-mile radius. He walked into the gym like he owned the place, which, as I was about to discover, he basically did. I waited another 10 minutes, then went inside. The front desk was staffed by a perky blonde who looked like she'd been recruited from a college cheerleading squad. Her name tag read Brittany, and she greeted me with the kind of enthusiasm usually reserved for lottery winners. "Welcome to Iron Paradise. Are you here for a tour?" "Actually, I'm looking for my wife. Helena Lane? She's been working with one of your trainers on some kind of partnership program." Brittany's smile flickered for just a second. "Oh, you must be Mr. Lane. Helena talks about you all the time. She's with Troy right now. They're in the private training room. Such a cute couple. I mean, such a dedicated partnership. Troy's really helped her with her flexibility." I bet he had. "Troy's the owner?" "Co-owner. He and his business partner opened this place about 2 years ago. Troy handles all the personal training. He's amazing, really knows how to work with people one-on-one." She giggled. "Helena's been here almost every day this month. She's really committed to her fitness goals." I thanked Brittany and left, before I said something that would get me banned from the premises. In the parking lot, I called Frank. "I need you to run a background check on someone named Troy. Last name unknown, but he's the co-owner of Iron Paradise Fitness on 5th Street. "You sure you want to go down this road, Vic?" "I'm already down it. I just need to know how far it goes." That evening, Helena came home at 9:30, flushed and slightly out of breath. She claimed she'd been working on advanced poses and needed a shower. While she was upstairs, I went through her gym bag. Inside, I found a receipt for dinner at Romano's, an expensive Italian place downtown, dated 3 days ago. The receipt was for 2 people and included a bottle of wine that cost more than most people spent on groceries in a week. At the bottom, someone had written, "Thanks for a perfect evening," in handwriting that definitely wasn't Helena's. I photographed the receipt and put it back exactly where I'd found it. Friday morning brought Frank's background report on Troy Mason, 33, co-owner of Iron Paradise Fitness, former personal trainer at several high-end gyms in Chicago, before moving to our quiet little city 18 months ago. No criminal record, but 3 civil suits from former clients alleging inappropriate conduct, all settled out of court. The guy was a predator who specialized in bored housewives with disposable income. Helena was just his latest conquest. That afternoon, I made my first move. I called our bank and froze all joint accounts, then redirected my paycheck to a new account in my name only. I called our credit card company and reported suspicious charges, getting new cards issued with my name as the primary account holder. I called our insurance company and updated our beneficiary information. By 5 p.m., Helena Lane had been financially cut off from the life we'd built together. She discovered it at 6:15 when her card was declined at the grocery store. I was in my home office when she burst through the front door, her face red with embarrassment and fury. "What the hell did you do to our accounts?" I looked up from my laptop, where I'd been reviewing custody laws in our state. "I secured our assets. There's been some suspicious activity on our cards lately." "Suspicious activity? Victor, I can't even buy groceries." "Really? Because according to our statements, you've been buying plenty of groceries at Romano's and that new sushi place on Park Avenue, and room service at the Marriott." I kept my voice level, professional. "Funny thing about that hotel charge, it was on a Tuesday when you told me you were working late." The color drained from her face. "I can explain." "I'm sure you can. Helena, you've always been creative." I closed my laptop and stood up. "But I'm not interested in explanations. I'm interested in solutions." "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means I know about Troy." She went very still. For a moment, the only sound in the room was the grandfather clock in the hallway, ticking away the seconds of our marriage. "How long?" I asked. "Victor, please, let me explain. It's not what you think." "How long?" 3 months. Her voice was barely a whisper. 3 months. While I'd been working 60-hour weeks to pay for her yoga studio and our son's private school and the mortgage on the house she'd insisted we buy. While I'd been planning our anniversary trip and worrying about Ethan's grades and trying to be the husband she claimed to want. Get out, I said quietly. What? Pack a bag and get out. Go to Troy's place, go to your sister's, go wherever you want, but get out of my house. Our house, Victor. And what about Ethan? You can't just… Ethan stays here, in his home, with his father, where things are stable and predictable and honest. I walked past her toward the stairs. You have 1 hour. She followed me, her voice rising to a pitch that would have shattered wine glasses. You can't do this. You can't just kick me out. I have rights. I stopped at the bottom of the stairs and turned to face her. You're absolutely right. You do have rights, and I'm sure Troy will be happy to explain them to you while you're explaining to him why your meal ticket just got canceled. That's when she started crying. Big, dramatic sobs that might have moved me a month ago. Now they just sounded like noise. I went upstairs to check on Ethan, who was in his room playing video games, blissfully unaware that his world was about to change forever. He looked up when I knocked on his doorframe. Hey, Dad, is Mom okay? She sounded upset. Mom's going through some changes right now, buddy. She might stay somewhere else for a while. Like a sleepover? Something like that. He nodded and went back to his game, accepting the explanation with the easy adaptability of childhood. I envied him. Downstairs, I could hear Helena making phone calls, her voice alternating between tears and rage. I sat on Ethan's bed and watched him play, trying to memorize the moment before everything became complicated. An hour later, Helena left with 2 suitcases and a string of threats about lawyers and custody battles, and how she'd make me regret this for the rest of my life. I locked the door behind her and poured myself a drink. The house felt different without her, quieter, but also cleaner somehow. Like someone had opened all the windows and let the lies blow away. My phone buzzed with the first of what would become 58 voicemails. I didn't listen to a single one. Helena's voicemails started arriving within minutes of her leaving the house. I let them pile up like digital snowflakes, each one a tiny monument to her panic and desperation. Message 1. Victor, please pick up. We need to talk about this like adults. Message 5. You're being ridiculous. I made a mistake, but we can work through this. Message 12. Think about Ethan. Think about what you're doing to our family. Message 23. Troy means nothing to me. It was just physical. You're the one I love. Message 34. I'll do whatever you want. Counseling, therapy, anything. Just please call me back. Message 47. You bastard! You think you can just destroy my life? I'll take everything from you. Message 58. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. Please, Victor. I'll end it with Troy. I'll quit the studio. Whatever you want. I listened to them all on Saturday morning while Ethan was at his friend Marcus's house for a sleepover. Each message was a masterclass in manipulation, cycling through denial, bargaining, anger, and false remorse. Helena had always been good at reading people, at knowing exactly what to say to get what she wanted, but she'd never been good at accepting consequences. By Saturday afternoon, I had an appointment with Margaret Chen, the best divorce attorney in the city. Margaret was a small woman with steel-gray hair and the kind of quiet intensity that made opposing lawyers wet themselves. She listened to my story without interruption, occasionally making notes on a yellow legal pad. You've done good work documenting everything, she said when I finished. The financial records, the hotel receipts, the witness statements. It's more than most people bring me. How do you want to proceed? I want primary custody of Ethan. I want the house. And I want her to understand that actions have consequences. Margaret smiled, a thin, sharp expression that reminded me of a scalpel. Mr. Lane, I think we're going to get along very well. Monday morning brought a new development. I was in my office when Brittany from Iron Paradise called. Mr. Lane, this is Brittany from the gym. I thought you should know. There's been some kind of incident with your wife and Troy. What kind of incident? Well, Helena came in this morning really upset, crying and everything. She was yelling at Troy about how he'd ruined her life, and he was like, "Whoa, crazy lady, I never promised you anything." It was super awkward. Then she threw her water bottle at him and stormed out. "Is Troy okay?" "Oh yeah, he's fine. But he told me to call you if Helena came back. He said she's been way too intense lately, and he's worried she might do something crazy." I thanked Brittany and hung up, feeling a grim satisfaction. Troy was cutting Helena loose, just like I'd expected. Guys like Troy didn't stick around when the money dried up and the drama started. They moved on to the next desperate housewife with a joint checking account and a neglectful husband. That afternoon I drove past Iron Paradise and saw Helena's car in the parking lot. She was sitting behind the wheel, staring at the entrance like she was trying to will Troy into coming outside. She looked smaller somehow, diminished. Her perfect hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail, and she was wearing an old sweatshirt I recognized from college. For just a moment, I felt something that might have been pity. Then I remembered the hotel receipt and kept driving. Tuesday brought a visit from Angela Morrison, Helena's best friend, and the closest thing to a sister she'd ever had. Angela was a real estate agent with perfectly manicured nails and a smile that could sell swampland to developers. She showed up at my office unannounced, dressed in a power suit that probably cost more than most people's monthly salary. "Victor, we need to talk." I gestured to the chair across from my desk. "About what?" "About Helena. About how you're destroying her over one little mistake." "One little mistake?" I leaned back in my chair. "Angela, she's been screwing another man for 3 months. She used our joint accounts to pay for their dates. She lied to our son about where she was and who she was with. That's not a mistake. That's a pattern of choices." Angela crossed her legs and fixed me with a look that had probably closed 1,000 real estate deals. "Men cheat all the time, Victor. They have affairs, they get forgiven, they move on. Why is it different when a woman does it?" "Because I'm not other men, and Helena isn't other women. She's my wife. Or was." I turned back to my computer. "If you're here to negotiate on her behalf, you're wasting your time. My lawyer handles that now." "Your lawyer?" Angela's voice rose an octave. "Victor, you're talking about divorce over a fling with a personal trainer. Don't you think you're being a little dramatic?" I looked at her for a long moment. This woman who'd been at our wedding, who'd held Ethan when he was born, who'd sat at our dinner table dozens of times talking about trust and honesty and the importance of family values. "Angela, did you know?" "Know what?" "About Troy. About the affair. Did you know?" She hesitated for just a second, long enough to give me my answer. "Get out of my office. Victor, get out, and tell Helena that if she wants to communicate with me, she can do it through Margaret Chen. Otherwise, the next conversation we have will be in court." Angela left without another word, her heels clicking angrily against the tile floor. That evening, I picked up Ethan from after-school care and took him to dinner at his favorite restaurant, a family place with arcade games and pizza that tasted like cardboard but made him happy. While he played skee-ball, I thought about Angela's visit and the way she'd hesitated when I asked if she'd known about the affair. Helena's best friend, the woman who'd encouraged Helena to take more time for herself and explore new interests and not let anyone hold her back from being her best self. The woman who'd been pushing Helena toward independence and self-discovery for months. I was starting to realize that Helena might not be the only one who'd betrayed me. Wednesday brought confirmation. Frank called with information I'd requested about Angela's recent activities. "You're not going to like this, Vic." "Tell me anyway." "Angela Morrison has been having lunch with Troy Mason every Tuesday for the past 2 months. Same restaurant, same time, same booth. They look pretty cozy for 2 people who supposedly just met." "You're sure?" "I've got photos. Want me to email them?" "Yeah. Send everything." The photos arrived 5 minutes later. Angela and Troy, heads close together over lunch, her hand on his arm, both of them laughing like old friends. The timestamps showed these meetings had been happening since before Helena's affair started. Angela hadn't just known about the affair, she'd orchestrated it. I sat in my office staring at the photos, pieces of a puzzle clicking into place. Angela's sudden interest in Helena's happiness, her encouragement to join a gym, to invest in herself, to not let anyone take her for granted. The way she'd pushed Helena to be more independent, more assertive, more willing to take what she deserved. Angela Morrison had weaponized my wife's midlife insecurities and pointed them straight at Troy Mason. But why? The answer came to me as I was driving home, a memory surfacing from 3 years ago. Angela had been dating a married man, a client who'd promised to leave his wife but never did. When the affair finally ended, Angela had been devastated, humiliated, and broke. She'd asked me for a loan to keep her real estate business afloat. I'd said no. Not because I didn't have the money, but because lending money to friends was a good way to lose both the money and the friends. I'd offered to help her restructure her business plan, to introduce her to some potential clients, to provide references for a business loan. But I wouldn't just hand over cash for what looked like poor financial planning. Angela had smiled and said she understood, but I'd seen something cold flicker in her eyes. Now, 3 years later, she was getting her revenge by destroying my marriage. I pulled into my driveway and sat in the car for a long moment, engine ticking as it cooled. Through the front window, I could see Ethan at the kitchen table, working on homework with the babysitter I'd hired to help with the transition. He looked happy, secure, unaware that the adults in his life were playing games that could destroy everything he'd ever known as normal. That's when I decided Angela Morrison needed to learn about consequences too. But first, I had a more immediate problem to solve. Thursday afternoon, I got a call from Ethan's school. Helena had tried to pick him up early, claiming there was a family emergency. When the office called to verify with me, Helena had become agitated and inappropriate, according to the principal. Mr. Lane, we're going to need some clarification about pickup procedures. Is Mrs. Lane authorized to take Ethan from school? Not without my permission. I'll email you a copy of the temporary custody order this afternoon. I see. And Mr. Lane? Mrs. Lane mentioned that Ethan might be changing schools soon. Something about moving to a better district? My pressure spiked. Ethan won't be changing schools. His mother is going through some personal issues right now. I'm his primary guardian. Understood. We'll make a note in his file. I hung up and immediately called Margaret Chen. Helena's getting desperate, I told her. She tried to take Ethan from school today. That's actually good for us, Margaret said. Desperate people make mistakes, and mistakes create legal opportunities. I'll file for an emergency custody hearing. With her recent behavior and the evidence of financial irresponsibility, we should get a favorable ruling. How long? 2 weeks, maybe 3. Can you handle things until then? I can handle things permanently if I have to. That evening, I sat Ethan down for what I'd been dreading, the conversation about his mother. Buddy, you know how Mom's been staying somewhere else for a few days? He nodded, not looking up from his Lego spaceship. Well, she's going to keep staying somewhere else for a while longer. She's working through some grown-up problems. Is she sick? Not exactly sick, but she needs time to figure some things out. Will she come back? I chose my words carefully. I don't know, Ethan, but what I do know is that you're safe here with me, and that's not going to change. He looked up at me with eyes that were too serious for a 7-year-old. Dad, did Mom do something bad? Why would you ask that? Because she's been acting weird. And Troy said maybe I'd have a new dad soon. But I don't want a new dad. I like the one I have. The casual way he said it hit me like a physical blow. Helena had been introducing our son to her lover, letting Troy plant ideas about replacing me, preparing Ethan for a future that would never happen. You're not getting a new dad, buddy. I'm not going anywhere. Promise? Promise. That night, after Ethan was asleep, I opened my laptop and began planning the final phase of Helena's destruction. She'd involved our son in her fantasy life with Troy, had tried to manipulate a 7-year-old into accepting her betrayal as normal. That was unforgivable. And Angela Morrison, the puppet master who'd orchestrated this whole disaster, was about to learn that some games have consequences she'd never considered. I cracked my knuckles and started typing. Friday morning brought news that made my coffee taste like victory. Frank called with an update on Troy's situation that was better than anything I could have planned. "Your boy Troy's got problems, Vic. Big problems." "What kind of problems?" "The kind that come with needles and little glass vials. Turns out Iron Paradise has been running a side business in performance enhancers. Anonymous tip came in yesterday. Police raided the place this morning." I nearly choked on my coffee. "Are you serious?" "Absolutely serious. They found enough steroids to supply a small army, plus distribution records going back 18 months. Troy's looking at felony drug charges, and the gym's been shut down pending investigation." "What about Helena?" "Clean, as far as I can tell. Wrong place, wrong time, wrong boyfriend. But she's definitely not welcome back there anytime soon." I hung up and immediately called Margaret Chen to update her on this development. Helena's association with a drug dealer wouldn't look good in custody proceedings, even if she hadn't been directly involved. "This keeps getting better for us," Margaret said. "A judge won't want to award custody to someone who's been romantically involved with a felon, regardless of her knowledge of his activities." That afternoon, I decided it was time to have a conversation with Angela Morrison. I found her at her real estate office, a converted Victorian house downtown that she'd decorated to look like something from a home and garden magazine. Angela was at her desk, talking on the phone in the aggressive tone she used with mortgage brokers and difficult clients. "I need to call you back," she said when she saw me, hanging up without waiting for a response. "Victor, this is a surprise." "Is it?" I settled into the chair across from her desk. "I thought you might be expecting me." "I'm not sure what you mean." I pulled out my phone and showed her one of Frank's photos, Angela and Troy having lunch, her hand on his arm, both of them smiling like conspirators. "Interesting lunch companion you have there?" Angela's face went pale, but she recovered quickly. "Troy's a client. I've been helping him look for investment properties. For 2 months, every Tuesday. Same restaurant, same booth." I swiped to another photo. "This one's particularly good. You're leaning in close enough to count his eyelashes." "Victor, I don't know what you think you're proving. I think I'm proving that you set up my wife, that you introduced her to Troy, encouraged the affair, and sat back to watch my marriage burn down." I put my phone away and leaned forward. "The question is why?" Angela stared at me for a long moment, and I could see her calculating, trying to figure out how much I knew and how much I could prove. "You destroyed my life," she said finally. "I what?" 3 years ago. When I asked for help, you turned your back on me. You let me lose everything while you sat in your perfect house with your perfect wife and your perfect life. I offered to help you restructure your business. You offered me charity, scraps from your table." Her voice rose, and I could see years of resentment boiling over. "Do you have any idea what it's like to beg someone you consider a friend for help, only to be told you're not worth the risk?" "Angela, you wanted $20,000 to cover bad investments and poor planning. That wasn't help. That was enabling. It was what friends do for each other. But you were never really my friend, were you, Victor? You were just Helena's husband, tolerating me because she liked having me around." I sat back, seeing Angela clearly for the first time. The woman I'd known for 15 years had been harboring this grudge, nurturing it, waiting for the right moment to strike back. "So, you decided to destroy my marriage." I decided to show Helena what she was missing, to help her see that she deserved better than a man who puts conditions on friendship and love. Angela's smile was sharp as broken glass. Troy was just the delivery system. And now Troy's facing felony charges. Helena's lost everything, and our son is caught in the middle. Was it worth it? For just a moment, Angela looked uncertain. Then her expression hardened again. Helena made her own choices, Victor. I just provided opportunities. I stood up, looking around the office that Angela had built through years of hard work and determination. Awards on the walls, photos of satisfied clients, certificates of achievement. A successful business that represented everything she'd worked for. You're right about one thing, Angela. Actions have consequences, and choices matter. What's that supposed to mean? It means I know about your relationship with Troy. I know about the lunches, the planning sessions, the way you manipulated my wife into throwing away 15 years of marriage. I headed for the door, then turned back. And I know that Helena wasn't the only married woman Troy was seeing. Angela went very still. What? Turns out Troy kept detailed records of his clients, personal training, performance enhancement, and what the police are calling additional services. Your name's on that list, Angela, along with dates, times, and some very interesting financial transactions. It was a bluff, but a good one. Angela's face told me everything I needed to know. You're lying. Am I? Troy's looking at serious prison time. How long do you think it'll take him to start making deals with prosecutors? Trading information for reduced sentences? I opened the door. I'd start thinking about damage control if I were you. I left Angela sitting at her desk, staring at her phone like it might explode. That evening, I took Ethan to his favorite pizza place, where we played arcade games and talked about everything except the chaos surrounding his mother. He was resilient in the way kids are, adapting to our new routine with an ease that both impressed and worried me. Dad, is Mom coming to my school play next week? The school play. I'd completely forgotten about it in the midst of everything else. I don't know, buddy, but I'll be there, front row center. Good. I'm playing a tree, and trees are very important to forests. The most important, I agreed. Saturday brought the emergency custody hearing. Margaret had prepared me well, but walking into that courtroom still felt like stepping into an arena. Helena was there with a lawyer she'd apparently scraped together money for, a young guy who looked like he'd graduated law school the week before. Helena herself looked terrible. Her hair was unwashed, her clothes wrinkled, and she had the hollow-eyed look of someone who hadn't slept in days. When our eyes met across the courtroom, I saw desperation, anger, and something that might have been regret. The hearing was brief and brutal. Margaret presented our evidence methodically. The financial records, the hotel receipts, the witness statements, Helena's attempt to take Ethan from school without authorization, and her association with Troy Mason, who was now facing felony drug charges. Helena's lawyer tried to argue that she was going through a difficult period, but remained a fit mother. He painted me as controlling and vindictive, seeking to punish Helena for a momentary lapse in judgment. The judge, an older woman with gray hair and tired eyes, listened to everything without expression. Mrs. Lane, she said finally, do you have stable housing at this time? Helena's lawyer whispered something to her before she answered. I'm staying with friends while I look for a permanent residence, Your Honor. Employment? I'm between positions at the moment. Mr. Lane, you have stable housing and employment? Yes, Your Honor. Ethan has his own room, his own school, his own routine. Nothing in his daily life has changed except that his mother no longer lives with us. The judge made notes, asked a few more questions, then rendered her decision. Given the evidence of financial irresponsibility, the ongoing criminal investigation involving Mrs. Lane's romantic partner, and the child's current stability in his father's care, I'm granting temporary primary custody to Mr. Lane. Mrs. Lane will have supervised visitation rights, to be arranged through the court. Helena's sob echoed through the courtroom, but I felt only relief. Ethan was safe, legally and practically. Outside the courthouse, Helena approached me while our lawyers finalized paperwork. "Victor, please, we need to talk." "We just did. In there, in front of a judge. I mean really talk. About us, about Ethan, about fixing this." I looked at her, really looked at her, for the first time in weeks. She was still beautiful, even disheveled and desperate. Still the woman I'd fallen in love with in college, still the mother of my child, still someone I'd once trusted with my entire life. "Helena, there is no us anymore. There's just Ethan, and making sure he gets through this with as little damage as possible." "I made a mistake." "You made 50 mistakes, 50 choices to lie, to cheat, to steal, to manipulate our son." I shook my head. "I could forgive one mistake, Helena. I can't forgive a pattern of betrayal." "What about Angela? You know she set this up, right? She manipulated me, played on my insecurities. Angela pulled the trigger, but you loaded the gun. You chose to have the affair. You chose to use our money for your dates. You chose to lie to Ethan about where you were." I started walking toward my car. "Own your choices, Helena. It's the first step toward becoming someone worth forgiving." I left her standing on the courthouse steps, crying into her phone, probably calling Angela or trying to reach Troy or begging someone else to fix the mess she'd made. That evening, Ethan and I celebrated with ice cream and a movie. He didn't know about the custody hearing, didn't understand the legal machinery that had just secured his future. He just knew that his dad was there, that his routine was stable, and that tomorrow would look pretty much like today. "Dad, are you happy?" he asked as I tucked him into bed. "What do you mean, buddy?" "You seem different lately, sadder, but also, I don't know, stronger?" Out of the mouths of babes. "I'm learning some things about myself, Ethan, about what's important and what isn't. And you know what I've figured out?" "What?" "You're the most important thing in the world to me. Everything else is just details." He smiled and closed his eyes, secure in a way that made my chest tight with gratitude. Downstairs, I poured myself a drink and sat in my home office, looking at the evidence files I'd built over the past few weeks. Photos, receipts, legal documents, witness statements, a paper trail of betrayal and consequences. My phone buzzed with a text from Frank. "Heard about the custody hearing. How you holding up?" I typed back, "Better than expected. Thanks for everything." "What's next?" I looked around the house that was finally, truly mine. Ethan's artwork on the refrigerator, his backpack by the front door, his Star Wars alarm clock ticking away upstairs. A life built on honesty and stability and love. "Next, we move forward," I typed. "And we don't look back." But even as I sent the message, I knew there was still one more conversation I needed to have. Angela Morrison had started this war, but she hadn't finished it, and neither had I. Monday morning brought unexpected news. I was reviewing quarterly sales reports when my assistant knocked on my office door. "Mr. Lane, there's a woman here to see you. Says it's urgent." Angela Morrison walked into my office looking like she'd aged 5 years in the past week. Her usually perfect hair was pulled back in a messy bun. Her makeup couldn't quite hide the dark circles under her eyes, and her hands shook slightly as she sat down. "We need to make a deal," she said without preamble. "Do we?" "The police want to talk to me about Troy, about my relationship with him." She couldn't meet my eyes. They seemed to think I might have been involved in his business activities. "Were you?" "Of course not. I had no idea about the steroids, about any of it. I thought he was just a personal trainer with good connections." I leaned back in my chair, studying her. "But you were sleeping with him." Her face flushed red. It wasn't like that." "What was it like, Angela?" She was quiet for a long moment, staring at her hands. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. "It was supposed to be simple. I'd introduce Helena to Troy, let nature take its course, and watch your perfect marriage fall apart. I wanted you to feel what I felt when you turned your back on me. But it got complicated." Troy was persuasive, charming. He made me feel young again, desired. Before I knew it, I was as caught up in his web as Helena was. She looked up at me, and I saw something broken in her eyes. He was playing us both, Victor. Using us both. And now you want my help. I want you to tell the police that I was just a client, that our lunches were business meetings, that I had no knowledge of his illegal activities. I considered her request, weighing it against everything she'd done to destroy my life. Why should I help you, Angela? You orchestrated the destruction of my marriage. You manipulated my wife, endangered my son's stability, and caused pain that will take years to heal. Because I'm sorry. Tears were running down her cheeks now. Because I was angry and hurt and stupid, and I let my need for revenge blind me to the consequences. Because Helena's not the only one who lost everything. I'm about to lose my business, my reputation, everything I've worked for. Good, I said quietly. Angela flinched like I'd slapped her. Angela, you spent 3 years nursing a grudge because I wouldn't enable your poor financial decisions. Then you weaponized my wife's midlife crisis to get revenge. You're not sorry you did it. You're sorry you got caught. That's not true, isn't it? If Troy hadn't been arrested, if this had all gone according to your plan, would you be here apologizing? Or would you be celebrating the destruction of my family? She didn't answer, which was answer enough. Here's what's going to happen, I continued. You're going to tell the police the truth about your relationship with Troy. You're going to admit that you introduced him to Helena knowing he was a predator. And you're going to face the consequences of your choices. Victor, please. I'm not finished. You're also going to stay away from Helena and Ethan, forever. If I see you at his school, at his games, at any event involving my family, I'll make sure the police know about every detail of your involvement in this mess. Angela stood up on shaky legs. You're destroying my life. No, Angela, you destroyed your own life. I'm just declining to save you from the wreckage. She left without another word, and I never saw her again. 2 weeks later, the final divorce papers were signed. Helena got a small settlement and supervised visitation rights. I got the house, primary custody of Ethan, and most of our shared assets. Margaret had been thorough and ruthless, using Helena's financial betrayal and association with Troy to secure the best possible outcome for my son and me. Helena moved to another state, supposedly to start fresh, but more likely because her reputation in our small city was beyond repair. Troy pled guilty to drug distribution charges and received 3 years in prison. Angela's real estate license was suspended pending investigation, and her business collapsed within a month. The day the divorce was finalized, I took Ethan to his school play, where he performed his role as a tree with the seriousness of a Shakespearean actor. Afterward, we went for ice cream and talked about summer plans, baseball camp, a trip to see his grandparents, maybe a vacation to Disney World. Dad, are you sad about Mom? He asked as we walked home. Sometimes, I admitted. I'm sad that things didn't work out differently, but I'm not sad about how things are now. Because we're okay. Just us. Because we're better than okay. We're honest with each other, we take care of each other, and we don't let anyone hurt our family. Even if they try? I thought about Helena's betrayal, Angela's manipulation, Troy's predatory behavior. I thought about the weeks of lies and evidence gathering and legal battles. I thought about the satisfaction of watching consequences catch up with people who thought they could use and discard others without penalty. Especially if they try. 6 months later, I got a promotion at work, regional manager with a substantial raise and better benefits. Ethan was thriving in school, making friends, playing Little League baseball. We'd developed routines and traditions that were ours alone, built on trust and honesty and the kind of love that doesn't come with conditions or expiration dates. Helena called occasionally, brief conversations about Ethan's schedule or school events. She sounded smaller somehow, diminished by the consequences of her choices. I felt no satisfaction in her downfall, but no regret either. She'd made her bed with Troy and Angela, and now she was sleeping in it. One evening, as I was helping Ethan with his homework, my phone rang. It was Frank. Thought you'd want to know. Angela Morrison was arrested today. Turns out she was more involved in Troy's business than anyone realized. Money laundering, apparently. She'd been using real estate transactions to clean drug money. How much time is she looking at? 5 to 10, if she's lucky. Turns out your refusal to loan her money 3 years ago wasn't about poor financial planning. She was already dirty then, looking for clean money to cover her tracks. I hung up and looked at Ethan, who was carefully working through a math problem with the same methodical precision I'd used to dismantle my cheating wife's life. Dad, what's money laundering? It's when people try to hide where money came from by mixing it with legal money. It's a way of lying about finances. Like when Mom used our credit card for her dates? Something like that, buddy, but bigger and more serious. He nodded and went back to his homework, accepting the explanation with the matter-of-fact wisdom of a child who'd learned early that adults sometimes made very bad choices. That night, after Ethan was asleep, I sat in my home office and reflected on the past year. A year ago, I'd been a trusting husband, a devoted father, and a man who believed that honesty and loyalty were reciprocal values. I'd been naive about the depth of deception people were capable of, about the lengths they'd go to for revenge or passion or simple selfishness. Now I was wiser, harder, and infinitely more careful about who I trusted. But I was also happier than I'd been in years. My life was simpler, cleaner, built on a foundation that couldn't be shaken by lies or manipulation or betrayal. Helena had thought she could have her cake and eat it too, keep the security of marriage while enjoying the excitement of an affair. Angela had thought she could orchestrate my downfall without consequences to herself. Troy had thought he could prey on vulnerable women indefinitely. They'd all learned the same lesson. Actions have consequences, and some people are more dangerous than they appear. I closed my laptop, turned off the lights, and went upstairs to check on Ethan one more time. He was sleeping peacefully, secure in the knowledge that his father would always be there, would always tell him the truth, would always protect him from the kind of people who viewed love and trust as weaknesses to be exploited. Outside, the city slept under a blanket of stars, full of people making choices that would echo through their lives for years to come. Some would choose wisely, building lives of integrity and meaning. Others would choose poorly, learning too late that betrayal and manipulation carry prices that compound over time. I'd learned to tell the difference between the two kinds of people, and I'd learned to respond accordingly.